Hello everyone, my name is Craig Chamberlain with Precision Electric at precision-elec.com. We are your industrial automation service center. Drives, motors, PLCs, controls. We've done it for about 30 years. So if you have any questions, feel free to call us and we'll take care of you. Today's video is going to cover the ACS355 variable frequency drive, basically the first startup. We're going to be powering it up with the input voltage and we're going to be wiring the motor as well. And there are some considerations you need to take when making sure you wire it properly as far as wire size is concerned and fuse sizing that actually aren't in the manual. So there are some recommendations I'm going to give you that aren't in the actual manual. But if you do want to follow along in the manual, we are in the section for connecting the power cables. And once we get everything connected, we are going to power it up and take a look at what we got. So let's go ahead and get started. Now to get started, the first thing we're going to do is wire our input voltage. Now here I have my fuses, or my fuse block set up for my two hot wires that are coming in. The only reason I have two hot wires is because I actually have single phase 220 volt, which gives me two hot black wires that need to be fused. Now for this particular setup, my fusing size is based on my input current of my drive. If I look on the side of my drive, I can actually tell on the nameplate that my input current is 6.1 amps. In general, when you're sizing a fuse, you go 1.5 times your input current. So in my instance, I'm actually using two 10 amp fuses. You could also use a circuit breaker if you wished. So depending on the input current on your drive, that's going to determine what your fuse sizing is. Now, when I bring my input voltage in here through the bottom, I go through the fuses, and then I come out on the top, and I come down back up into the input section of the drive. And here on mine, since it's single phase, I have L, N, and W1. W1 doesn't have anything wired to it because again, I've only got two hot wires right here coming in on single phase. So I wire those two hot wires to L and N, or U1 and V1. And that's my wiring for my input voltage for my drive. Now once the input voltage is wired, I can go ahead and apply power to the drive by pushing in the fuses in my instance, and then you see the screen come on. So that basically tells me that my input voltage is wired correctly, and I've got my drive powered up. Now if I want to shut it down again, which I'm going to real quick, I can just pull those fuses out, or if you're using a circuit breaker, you could just open the circuit breaker, and then after a couple seconds, it's going to actually turn the screen off. Now for the output section of the drive, it's important for me to note that I have a three-phase motor, and all of the ACS355 drives use three-phase motors. So in this instance, I'm going to be wiring the output to, it actually is labeled right here on the drive, motor, but I have a U2, V2, and a W2, and those particular terminals are for each phase of the motor, and they can be wired in any order you wish. Just know that it'll determine the direction of your motor depending on which way you wire it. So if for some reason it starts off in the wrong direction, you can just swap one of these phases and it'll actually make it go in the other direction. So what I'm doing is U2, V2, W2, they come out, and for me they just go to a terminal block, and that terminal block comes out into my motor. So that makes sure everything is wired up correctly on the motor side. Now the only thing I have left to mention really is the ground wires, because you want to make sure your line side and your motor are both grounded. At the bottom of the drive there is a little ground section. There actually is a little label there called PE, and there's another little ground signal. And you wire your grounds and you tie them together directly to this. Do not wire your neutral to it. Your neutral comes into N. So if you have a single phase input in a neutral, that's going to go to N. It's not going to go to your ground. And that's pretty much all there is to it. As I said before, you can pop on the power, drive turns on, and everything's working good. We haven't run the motor yet, but in the next video we'll be covering how to actually start it up and run the motor. And that part will be pretty easy. That's one of the nice things about these drives is they're very user-friendly. So one other thing I do want to kind of point out, and let me kind of determine the best course to say this, but on the input voltage here, for your fusing, you want to make sure that you reference a manual when you're actually doing your wire sizes. So what I have here is our manual, the ABB manual that came with the drive, doesn't have fuse sizing, recommended wire sizing. So you'll want to look into the ESA Electrical Handbook or Electrical Engineering Handbook. You can find these online. There is a section for allowable ampacities of not more than 3 insulated conductors. In my particular ESA manual, it's actually in page 74. But depending on the type of wire you're using, this will tell you, based on your current, so in my case 6 amps, what wire size I can use. Obviously you can always use larger, but in my case I can use wire as small as 18 amps because I'm using THHN wire. So I just wanted to reference that for you guys who are wondering what wire sizes to use, because I get that question quite a bit, and that'll help you determine that because it's not actually in the manual. So that's all there is to this video. Again, my name is Craig Chamberlain with Precision Electric. Don't forget to visit our website at precision-elect.com where you can purchase these drives. And essentially, this is all you need to do to wire your voltage, your input voltage, and your motor to the drive. Now, when you first start it up, there is a startup assistant that is covered in this manual. You'll go through the basic parameters. And pretty quickly, once you get through that, you can press the start button and your motor will start. So, again, thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, we're your industrial automation service center. Drives, motors, PLCs, controls. We've been doing them for about 30 years. So anything you need help with, we'll be more than happy to take care of you. So talk to you then.